This is the account of Lena Rice and her heirs as far as she can remember and the best she can remember. Taken 15 September 1983.
Now I'll go from there.
Talk loud.
What'd you tell me?
Your name?
Lena Mae Rice Tatum,
What year was you born?
1901,
Where were you born?
Seymour, Missouri.
Your dad's name?
John Tatum,
Do you remember when he was born? The year?
18. No, that's your grandma. Oh, Lord, no, I don't remember
Okay, what was your mother's name?
that. Louisa
Okay, Louisa Tatum.
Tatum, Denny. Well, that'd be her people you wouldn't.
Your brothers and sisters, if you had any?
I had one sister,
Her name?
Ethel
Tatum.
Tatum, and one that died was Ethel Tatum.
And
I
one,
mean, Julie Tatum.
Julie Tatum.
That's all I had. She died at 4 years old.
Your grandfather's name?
William Sylvester Tatum.
Your grandmother?
My grandmother, Liza Tatum,
Just
on
like
my daddy's side.
on your daddy's side. On your mama's side.
John Denny. John Denny
And his wife?
was
Your grandmother?
Julie Denny.
And they were from the Warsaw?
Mm-mm.
No?
The Tatums was
Okay. Do you remember her maiden name? What was it?
well, one that come from France.
No, Liza
Liza. Well, that was the one.
Tatum. That was after she got married.
Yeah.
What was
Warsaw.
her maiden name? Was Warsaw, and she was from France.
Yeah,
She come over with her grandmother
and a brother,
and a brother,
Frank.
Frank Warsaw. Where did they settle?
Well, they settled in St. Louis, and she
Okay.
worked for she was a cook for a man that run the riverboat, and my
Okay.
grandpa was working for him too. There's where they got acquainted and married. And
Okay.
then after my daddy was 11 years old, they moved to Seymour, and grandpa homesteaded.
At Seymour.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then when I was 6 years old, we went to Texas
Where?
at Temple.
Temple, Texas.
And then we came back 2 years later on account of Mama's mother had heart trouble. And we come back and moved to Oklahoma. And there's where I grew up and married
Okay.
and had,
Most of your family was farmers.
yeah.
Some worked in.
Well, my daddy's people was in Texas, and they was well-to-do farmers. And they had different names, of course, his cousins and them.
Do you remember any of those?
Yeah.
What were they?
Well, he had an aunt. Her name was Aunt Kate Holston.
Kate Holston.
Holston.
Holston. Okay.
And she was wonderful. And she had a son, Jim Bob.
Was that his name or was it Jim?
Jim Bob.
Jim Bob.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's what he went by. And Henry.
Okay.
And let's see, she had. So I remember right now.
Okay. Well, at least that's some.
And
Anybody else you can remember?
As in, and he had, they had a sister, his cousin, and she married a Goss. Jane Goss.
Okay. Now these are all,
Huh?
who are they?
They was my dad's cousins.
Your dad's cousins. Okay.
And, oh yeah, he had a band.
He had a band?
One named Ben.
Oh, one named Ben.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought
I
you said he had a
remember
band.
that. It come back to me.
Okay.
Jim, Bob, and Ben.
And they all lived where?
And Henry.
In
They
Henry.
They all lived at Bartlett, Texas.
Bartlett.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they're probably still there then.
I wouldn't doubt it. Some of them had caught their children and all.
Probably.
And they was well-to-do farmers. His people was all pretty well-to-do.
What'd your dad do?
Well, my dad farmed, sharecropped,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about all he ever did do.
Your grandpa?
Well, I don't know. Grandpa, see, he was working as a nurse, and during the Civil War, I guess it was, wasn't it, way back there?
Mm-hmm.
Civil War, he worked as a nurse in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And then he come there, Seymour. He married the French lady,
What was her name?
Liza.
Liza.
Warsaw.
Warsaw.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And let's see, now let me study from there. And he stayed in St. Louis and worked for a man on a riverboat
Okay.
till he was, let's see, then's when he married. She was a cook for the same man.
Mm-hmm.
And he come down to Seymour and homesteaded and raised his family. And Grandma died when she's 42 years old.
Okay. Hold it for just a minute.
Yeah. And so Grandpa stayed in St. Louis with him till my dad was 11 years old. And he come down there and homesteaded that place. And he reserved an acre of ground for a cemetery. And she was the first and buried in the cemetery. And then friends and neighbors just filled up the cemetery. I had a little sister and a cousin buried there.
What were their names? Do it again.
Oh, my cousin,
Her name was what?
Mary. And
Mary what?
Tatum.
Okay.
And Julie was my sister.
Okay.
And she was 4 years old.
And they're buried where?
Buried there in our cemetery.
In Seymour. Okay. Who was Uncle George?
That's Papa's youngest brother.
Did he have any more brothers or sisters?
Yes, he had Robert was the oldest, and Will, and then Papa, and then Uncle George, and they had one sister.
Her
and
name?
she lived out, her name was Lena.
Leanna?
And she married and lived down here to Poplar Bluff and raised her family. Her name was Audrey. Married name was Audrey.
Okay.
Her name was Danny. John Danny was her daddy.
Her daddy's name, now what was her name?
Mama's,
Uh-huh.
Louisa.
Louisa. Her dad was,
Her dad was John Danny.
John Denny. What was his wife's name?
Julie.
Julie. Then, can you remember either one of those mom and dads, their mom and dads?
Well, Grandma's was White.
White.
Her maiden name was White.
Okay.
And I remember my great-grandma was a big, large woman.
Uh-huh.
And I think her name was Sarah, I believe.
Sarah.
Yeah. And I remember one aunt, Mama was called Aunt Margaret.
Aunt Margaret?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now your mom, did she have any sisters and brothers?
Yes.
Who were they?
She had Jim and Louis and Charlie as brothers. And she had Shirley and Ann and Sarah.
Sarah.
Sarah was the oldest.
Okay.
She died.
Okay, on that her side, do you remember any aunts and uncles?
Let's see. I remember talking about one Uncle Wash White.
Warsh?
Uh-huh. I don't know what his name was, just Wash. She called him, he made it in the gold fields,
I see.
digging days.
Uh-huh.
My grandmother rode a ox from Missouri to California once.
Is that right?
From my daddy.
Hmm.
And she got rattlesnake bit. She had to go with her foot and leg buried in a pot of clay for I don't know how long. But it overtook them, and they had to guard their wagons 3 days before they got there.
Hmm.
But, and then Mama had a aunt by the name of, let's see, what was her name? Can't remember that. Never did know much about her.
Do you remember where she was from? Your mama?
My mom,
Mm-hmm.
right there in Seymour, Missouri.
Okay. How about your grandma? Where she could come from?
Yes, she's there too.
They was all from right there in Seymour. Okay. How about cousins?
Oh, let's see, Mama had a first cousin. What his name was, they all just called him Elt.
Milt?
Elt.
Elt. Okay.
Elt Denny. And then that one was Uncle Judge Denny, that was his boy.
Uh-huh.
And, let's see. That's all I remember, her cousin and that uncle. Judge Denny.
Okay. You want to tell about the land grant in St. Louis from France, from the
Yeah.
French?
Tell what I was always told.
Okay.
Well, what do you want me to tell?
Just how it
Well,
started. Where all you can remember
My
about it.
grandma came over from France.
Mm-hmm.
France. Her grandmother brought her, but I don't remember their Papa ever calling her name, and a brother.
Mm-hmm.
And then they was there till she had the Spanish granted her the French this like the Indian allotments.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't know she had it till she was sicking in the bed.
Hmm.
And the man that she worked for, cook
Mm-hmm.
on the riverboat, found out she had ground on St. Charles River. And she had where the old courthouse and fairground was all hers. And Grandpa said it. He come down and she had 10 acres on St. Charles River, and he wanted that, so he brought the deed down. And when she signed that, she signed it for all.
Hmm.
All that she had. One big grocery store and a fairground and courthouse was on her ground.
Was it for payment for something or?
Huh?
Was it, did he have her sign over for a dead or?
No, just got her to sign. She was the one that she was a cook for, you know, on the riverboat. And he found out she had it. And of course she was sick and bad sick, and Grandpa didn't know anything about it, so he never tried to find out after she died.
Okay.
She died with dropsy.
You don't remember the riverboat captain's name, do you?
No, I don't remember that.
Must have been a paddle wheeler.
Might have been back them days. I don't remember.
Probably was.
Hearing him say. But now Mama's side, Grandpa fought in the Civil War.
And he was in a, what battle?
Lone Jack.
Lone Jack.
And that was down at Lynn Creek.
Okay.
And he was wounded.
All right.
A little, but not much. But now it's Bagnell down.
And that was, he was who?
Huh?
Your grandpa?
Yeah.
Okay.
My Grandpa Denny, Mama's dad.
Okay. Can you remember anybody else?
Well, I remember having one named, uncle named George
George what?
Denny. And one, let's see now.
Remember his wife?
I don't, well, he married, let's see, after his wife's name was Adeline, his first wife. And she died, and then he married Aunt Sarah's mother at, her name was Louisa, I think. And he married her, and her husband was well, wouldn't do no good till that wasn't my kin anyway then.
Okay. Now, maybe you can remember something about Grandpa's. My grandpa.
Your grandpa?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember some.
Okay. His name was Vonnie Lamasker Rice.
Just Bonnie Hills all he ever used.
And his dad's name?
His dad was James Lewis.
Okay. Do you remember his wife's name?
Martha Ann.
Okay. Do you remember grandpa's name?
Lynn.
Lynn?
Not Lynn like a girl, but
Yeah. And where were they from? Do you remember?
Arkansas.
All of them. He had, Grandpa had how many brothers and sisters?
Well, he had, your grandpa's.
Yeah.
Well, he had Lonnie and Otto, so the brothers he had.
Okay.
And he had Mitty and Esty and Edith and Geneva.
As sisters. Okay. And Helen.
Yeah, Helen.
Okay.
That's a baby.
Do you remember any of his cousins?
Yeah, some.
Okay.
He had an aunt, Aunt Abby Harrington, Mary Harrington, and she had Vancy and Letha, and her brother, Delbert, I think his name was.
Okay.
And that's all I remember of him. Only his aunt was Aunt Eva.
about her?
Huh?
What do you remember about her?
Well, I remember they said Grandma Rice had enough Indian in her that they tried to get Aunt Eva to sign up for allotment, you know, and she wouldn't do it. She wouldn't claim the blood.
What kind of Indian were they?
Cherokee.
Okay. Do you have all their names wrote down in the Bible? No?
I never did get it filled out.
Okay.
Just got 2 or 3 in there. Your daddy's death and Aunt Mittie's death,
Uh-huh.
something like that. Sherry never did get it filled out.
Grandpa was born where? Do you remember?
Gainesville, Missouri.
What year?
1898.
Okay. Do you remember anybody else on his side of the family?
Nothing on 2 uncles that Grandpa Rice had was so mean nobody wanted to claim them.
What were their names? Do you remember?
Their names was Taylors. That was your his great-grandma's name was
Okay.
Taylor. No, his grandma was a Taylor.
His
Your
grandma.
great-grandma.
Okay.
And they had them 2 boys, and Grandpa said this dog and mean. They did.
What were their names? Do you remember?
No, I don't. Don't remember what their names was.
And they lived,
They was living in Arkansas.
do you remember what town?
You know, Gainesville, I guess, where they all come from.
Okay. Mountain Home?
Yeah, close to Mountain Home.
Okay.
That was the main big city.
Okay. All right.
Yellville was just a little town, you know, not very big.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else's name?
Grandpa Rice, your grandpa's grandpa.
Uh-huh.
I said the name was Lynn.
Uh-huh.
He had 3 or 4 brothers,
Remember their names?
Frank and Joe and Landy. Oh, that was Grandpa Rice's son, Lundy.
Okay.
And Lundy and Virgil.
Okay.
And then was your grandpa's uncles.
Do you remember
Joe.
their wives' names?
Huh?
Remember their wives' names?
Yeah. Elizabeth was Lundy's wife's name. Mary was Virgil's wife's name. And let's see, seemed like there ought to be another. But I don't remember that.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, but now, Grandpa had 3 brothers. Was Joel and Frank
Uh-huh.
and what did I say the other one was? When I was talking about you, Aunt Alma said she had 3 sisters that married Rice. His Uncle Frank and Joel and what did I say they were?
Hmm?
What? Frank
Okay.
and Joel, so I don't remember.
Okay. Well, if that's all you can remember, that's pretty good.
Yeah, 'cause I didn't even, well, I did know him too. I know Uncle Joel. I seen him and Uncle Frank. I had their picture.
Is that right?
I don't know whatever went on my pictures. I don't know. I know I had them. And I had one of your grandpa's cousins, Arthur Rice.
Arthur.
Yeah, and Freddie was their names. And Clifford and Eunice.
Mm-hmm.
Clifford was a music man and sang over the radios and everything. And his daughter did. Her name's Carter.
Carter?
Carter.
Carla. You got that wrote down? How much you got wrote down?
They lived in Kansas City.
Huh? Carla?
You remember seeing her on television.
Huh. Was that right?
She was Clifford Rice's daughter. Wanted, I said, this music, all of them could play and sing.
Okay.
Arthur played with the Andrews sisters.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
There ought to be a picture of him somewhere.
I had a picture of him.
Find the Andrews sisters. He was just in the band, right?
Huh?
If he was in the band, he should have a picture of him.
Oh, I don't know about
Huh?
that, see.
Yeah. So,
Huh?
well, if that's all you can remember, I guess that's all we can put down.
So I remember. Only the names of Uncle Joe's kids.
You don't remember if if any of them come from like France or England or someplace like that, do you? They just got started here, huh?
I guess down in Arkansas as far as I ever know.
Okay. Yeah, that's what,
Somebody said, just tell him that Grandma Rice came off in the reservation, Indian reservation. I said, yeah, she did, down in Arkansas in the hills,
okay.
Yellville.
Well, I wonder if they keep. I wonder how they knew. Well, I wonder if they had enough records back then to.
I doubt it. Grandma Rice, your mommy's grandma, your great-grandma, had a Bible and they buried it with her. I don't know what had in it. Grandpa had one too. They buried it with him.